Tina Bonner does pop culture, and this is our special Saturday show called Shane's Book Addiction. And if you're just joining us, well, this is the first time we've ever been on video together, which is fucking awesome, right? We're finally getting with the 21st century, whatever this is.
I don't know if it's awesome or not,
Well,
considering I got to figure out some lighting issues in my house.
yeah, it's Shane and then also Jeff's ghost are joining us here today. Uh, Jeff and I are best friends, but we haven't seen each other for like a year and a half
Yeah, not
almost
face to
now.
face because the
Not
last
face to
time,
face.
yeah, because I think the last time was when we went home on March 18th.
Yeah, it was. So I did not know that Jeff had shaved his head, and I didn't know his beard had turned from red and sober to completely silver. So
It's not completely silver. A lot of that's the lighting. There's still a little red in there, little red. It's a lot longer than it used to be.
it
Um,
is.
now I needed
And
a
actually,
haircut.
go ahead.
I needed a haircut shortly after COVID hit and we got sent home. And my hair when it starts to get long is just brutal. Like it's curly and sticking everywhere. You can't comb the shit. So and there were no barber shops open. I couldn't get to a friend's house to have him cut me. And then I was thinking I don't really want to be calling her every time I need a haircut. Um, so I just bought a pair of clippers, shaved it all off, and every few weeks since then I just shave it all off.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
it's
And it
nice because I
actually
don't have to do anything. I just wake up in the morning and go.
and it fits really well with the book we're covering today because we're talking about John Gwynne's Shadow of the Gods, and that is a Viking type saga. And with with your paleness and your reddish silver beard and your bald head, you kind of look like a Viking.
I can't remember what the first time I saw somebody afterwards, um, they walked around the corner and then just like stumbled and almost fell. And they're like, "You look like a badass. You just scared the shit out of me." So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I do kind of fit the Viking mold. I got to get something on that window.
Well, I mean, Jeff, you're like 6'4", 6'5", and you're huge, and you got like the bald. Yeah, I can see where that could be intimidating to
Well,
people.
6'1", and it's not that I'm huge. I'm fat. There's a whole difference there.
In wrestling terminology, you're 6'4", 6'5".
Oh, fair enough. 6'4", 6'5", 480.
Um,
I do look
so
like a member of DOA though. One of the twins, Ron and Don.
oh yeah, fair. That's fair. Yeah, you could be a biker, or you could be standards of practices with the other thing did right. Nitro.
um, so I don't know. It's your book review. It's your book. I didn't get a chance to look anything up because I've been fighting with Zoom for the last 15, 20 minutes. So what's the name of the book we're looking at?
The name of the book that we're looking at is Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. And I am going to actually pull up an image here because I want to show you guys this cover.
Ooh.
And yeah, so it's right here.
Well, that's kind of a cool cover.
Yeah, can you guys see that? I mean, this
Nope,
is
you started sharing your screen, but there's nothing there.
oh really? Okay, let me try this
It's
again.
just black screen here. There we go. Dragons. Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, this cover makes a promise, right? I mean, you got this mountain, right? You got this mountainside, and this dragon is coming out of this huge cave, and there's a warrior. You can't really see the warrior there, but she's kind of like a warrior princess, and she's standing there, and that dragon's coming out of the huge cave, and this book makes a promise, and this happens. This scene actually happens in the climax of the book.
Nice.
It's fantastic. And I'm just, this is my first time using Zoom, guys, so I apologize for my technical issues here, but I'm gonna figure out how to stop sharing this. You guys can actually see me again. Um, how do I do
If you can
this?
share over my face in the future, I'd be very much
Well,
appreciative.
I can't even figure out how to stop sharing now. Oh, here we go. All right, it looks a little like WebEx where the stop shares at the top. Okay, there we go. All right, so now
Why
you
can't
should
I
be able
find
to.
why can't I find a book review on this?
Oh, there's plenty of them. If you go to good,
But
if you go
what's
to
the
if you go to Goodreads, there's
Goodreads? There
407
it
of
is.
them.
Hey, it's 4.5 rating.
It is, yeah, and that's a little All right, am I back now?
Yep, you're back.
That's weird. Oh, I see what happened. My power cord. I plugged my laptop in, guys, right before we started, but I didn't realize the power cord was not all the way inside the extension cord. So, all right, so you can turn my house. There's my TV. I barely watch because I have my projector right there. So,
Nice.
all right. So anyway, and this is my puppy. This is Rhaegar. So, all right.
This furry little bitch is just not going to leave me alone. So
I am too eventually. Oh,
Oh.
you mean the cat? You mean the
that
cat?
cat.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Yeah. So
While you were doing that, I was looking up just kind of a quick overview of the book. It sounds interesting.
oh, it is, man. It is. I couldn't put it down. Well, I had to because I had to work and shit. But
So when I said that 4.5 rating, what I said right before you went dark was you mentioned, I can't remember the sound you made, but I was like, okay, is 4.5 a little generous?
no, it's probably right there. I mean,
Okay.
I would rate it as a near perfect book. It's I mean there are definitely, there's a few parts there where they're a little bit slow, but I mean overall I think it all serves the story, and
Okay.
it follows three main characters here, and I'll try to like sum up each of their stories and kind of tie it together, but I need you to pay really close attention to the stuff that I'm telling you. Okay. So it starts off with Thorkel,
I'm
Orca,
in my listening pose.
and Brekka. And Orca is the main. There's three point of view characters, and Orca is our point of view character for that part of it. So Thorkel is her husband, and Brekka is her son, and they live out in the countryside of surrounding their jarldom or whatever, because you're talking about like Viking times, so there's not like cities. It's more like areas.
Okay.
And they actually see that they're coming back from they're out hunting, and they're teaching Brekka, who's 10 years old, kind of how to hunt with a spear, and he throws a spear at a deer or an elk, something like, yeah, I can't remember if it's a deer or an elk, but his aim is true. It's going to hit the elk, and the elk just takes off. And it turns out that there's been kind of a slaughter, and they kind of follow like the sounds of like a wolf basically chasing the elk, but the wolves are running for something too, and they get there. Damn puppy.
They get there and yell, "Damn puppy!"
Yeah, they get there, and it turns out their neighbors have been slaughtered. The dad and the mom were slaughtered, but the kid was taken.
Slaughtered neighbors are tight.
And they go to the town to report it to the Jarl. Well, the Jarl is off, basically kissing the ass of the queen. But they see the nephew, who's kind of like the head of like the local quote unquote constabulary, right? The band of warriors that kind of patrol that area, and he's like all snobbish about it, like, well, if they lived closer to town, like, if you and them lived closer to town, this wouldn't have happened, blah blah blah. But anyway, so they go out, they report there, they do their duty, and all that stuff, and then it turns out, and then they come back for like a meeting with the town. They report it again to the Jarl. And then the Jarl's nephew, the guy that was kind of a dick, he fights off against one of their friends that rode them to the meeting in his boat, because the friend is kind of challenging him, and they agree to it. They agree to a battle to submission rather than to death, right? So you can submit instead of dying.
That was
Well,
definitely nice of them.
after the nephew loses, gets stabbed like really hard in the shoulder, because shoulder wounds are tight, and he's also like fallen out of the circle, so he's submitted in two different ways. And if he takes one more step outside the circle, then that's considered running away, and then he's fair game. Well, he actually, the guy's like, the guy that's fighting him is like, well, you lost, now you need to concede, and he's like, I'm not going to cede you, and he curses him out, and so the guy goes to kill him, and then he gets attacked by this thrall of the Jarl, who turns out is tainted. And so she actually ends up killing the guy that wasn't, that had made the challenge. And Thorkel jumps in there to stop this to basically stop, to try to stop the kill. And in doing so, he gets cut, and the thrall licks the knife with Thorkel's blood on it. Thorkel and Orca talk about it when they get back home, and they're like, "Yeah, this is not safe here anymore. Things are happening. We need to get out of here." And so we're talking about a world full of magic, not a hard magic system, but a world full of magic. So Orca goes to talk to, I guess, like a tree spirit to see where else they can go that would be safe for them, that have to have a similar tree spirit that would be able to protect their home. Well, she gets there, the tree spirit is dead, and then she hears screaming, and she smells smoke, and it actually turns out that the same people that had taken her neighbor's kid have now taken her kid. And even though Thorkel fought them off, it killed like a half dozen of them. They've killed Thorkel as well.
Oh wow.
And so all that's left alive there then is their two demons. They also have two demons that are protecting their trying to protect their steading from other demons. One of
So
them,
they have demon butlers, basically.
well, they have one demon kind of that is like kind of like a guardian spirit of their, and this one is like a kind of like a snake that lives in the ground, but he's also like has wings. So it's kind of like a flying snake type thing.
Winged snakes are tight.
And and then the other one turns out to be kind of like an evil version of a tooth fairy. But this is one that Brecca, like at the beginning of the book, had found when they were coming back from had found and befriended. And so this is like a newer portion. But when I say wicked tooth fairy, I mean like it's got like a human face, but it also has wings that can fly. And then her that type of demon eats teeth. That's like their favorite snack is teeth. So
Teeth.
yeah. So they both want to go with her, but but Spurt, who is the demon they originally had, is hurt, and so she tells Vasily, who's the other demon, to stay behind and watch over him, and she will go find the kids. She will go find Brecca on her own, right? Okay, so that's the
Is
first
she
part of
snacking on teeth at this moment?
no.
I mean,
Well, I mean,
how do they do that? Do they have like?
well, I mean, there are others there. There are plenty of teeth there from the people that Thorkel killed that she could be snacking on the teeth.
Well, I have questions about the whole teeth snacking. I mean, like you walk into grandma's house and there's like a candy bowl. Do they have like a teeth bowl? I there's so many possibilities with this teeth thing.
No, actually, in fact, it's something like Thorkel and Orca talk about, where they're like, I don't know if we want this creature in our home. She could just take her teeth out of her mouth in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. Um,
And
so
this is
that's
the evil tooth fairy.
well, I should say that it's kind of like a tooth fairy type creature because that's
Because it eats teeth.
because they fly around and they eat teeth. Yeah. So, another
That
character.
just scared the holy hell out of me. Like that changed my entire childhood right there. Now every time a tooth disappeared from underneath my pillow and I gave me a quarter, I'm thinking that if it was a snack, it was worth a whole hell of a lot more than a quarter.
Yeah, no kidding. Another character that we start following then is Varg, who himself is a thrall. And it turns out that he has actually killed his former owner. And he is looking for a cedar witch or a Seoder witch. I can't remember how you pronounce it, or a Galderman. So basically, like a witch or a wizard that will perform a spell that will allow him to see how his sister died. He's made basically a vow to his sister that he's going to find her killer and avenge her. And so in order to do that, he finds a Seorder witch in this village he goes to in Vigrid. Vigrid is the name of the continent, okay, or the country. And so he goes to this village and he finds a Seorder witch, but this is actually a witch that's in the thrall of Glornir, who is the head of the Bloodsworn. And the name of this of the name of the trilogy of this book is first part of is the Bloodsworn saga. So Glornir is the head of the Bloodsworn, which is, a band of Vikings basically. And in order to, but he'll only let his Order Witch do castings for people that are part of his band of warriors, part of his war band. But there is a spot open in the war band. One of the war band has died, and so they're having basically a contest to see who is worthy of joining their war band. And Varg has been a pit fighter before. He's won a lot of battles, and he's like, okay, well, I will try to do this. And he fights against a guy called Einar Half Troll, because his name is Einar, but also he's like half the size of a troll. So so Varg fights this guy.
Is Bard the size of a troll, or is he like a normal human size?
No, Varg is a normal human size, kind of actually on the runtish side.
Okay, so what kind of trolls are we talking? Are we talking like under the bridge trolls that are really small to begin with, or are we talking about the badass trolls that are like monster huge?
No, remember when I told you like a couple of weeks ago, like I felt like I got hit by swinging troll testicles? That's from this book. Like
okay, so
like in this case, like the trolls are actually giant, and they're so big that their testicles can knock you over when they're swinging around.
So
They have big antlers and everything.
So even though this one's a half troll, it's still a monster.
It's yeah, and he's not really part troll. It's just that they call it,
Oh,
because of his size.
Oh, okay. So he's not troll. He's half a troll, but he's a huge guy because he's half a troll, and the trolls are huge.
Right.
Okay, so now it's a little better in context, because I couldn't imagine like a normal sized guy battling someone that's like 2 feet tall.
Right, exactly. No, so probably you're talking about like a 7-foot guy fighting up against like a 5'10" guy, something like that, 5'8" guy.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. All right.
Yeah. So and Varg, Varg does lose, of course, but he does, he does try, hard. He actually hurts Einar by biting him in the thigh, and Einar, holds his grudge for a lot of the book.
Okay.
Because he gets bit.
When you said he tried hard, the only thing I could think about is a participation ribbon.
Well, he gets more than that, because he wakes up, and he's all panicked when he wakes up, because he thinks he's missing his gold and his thrall collar and his bag that turns out to have something very important to him in it, which is the hair of his sister, because whoever he wants to perform that spell needs something of his sister in order to cast a spell to find out what happened. But actually all that stuff is there when he wakes up, and coincidentally, as he wakes up, he starts getting attacked by the son of his old master that he had killed, and some other people from that farm. But the Bloodsworn actually come in and save his life. They're like, yeah, you're with us now. He's like, but I lost. They're like, yeah, everybody lost to Einar. It's the way in which you lost, right? And so then he's never been, he's never wielded a sword. He's barely wielded a spear, never wielded a shield, an axe, any of that. He's just been a pit fighter basically, or worked the farm. And so he goes through the training exercise to become a member of the Bloodsworn, and that's kind of where his story picks up at, is he is learning how to be a warrior.
Okay.
He's going along with the Bloodsworn on a mission for the Queen. Now, let's pick up where Elvar. Elvar is the third point of view character we have.
Okay.
And Elvar is a 21-year-old female. So we've got, out of our 3 point of view characters, 2 of them are female, 1 is male, which is very unusual, right? I mean, it's unusual to have a lead character in fantasy, and especially unusual to have, if you're only going to have 3 point of view characters, have 2 of them be female. So that's a really cool piece of stuff that's going on. Elvar is, when we first meet her, she is fighting off against the troll. She's one of the ones that gets knocked down by the troll testicles. But she actually ends up killing the troll. She gets the final blow on it, and so she basically is like, she becomes known then by her war band as Elvar Troll Slayer.
When like a person is trophy hunting
Yeah,
or fishing, and they get whatever they caught, like a deer head mounted on the wall, or their fish. Did she mount the troll testicles on her wall?
she did not, but
Oh,
the head of her war band, Agnar, not Ragnar, Agnar, um,
Agnes. Okay.
yeah, actually because she was the one to kill the troll. If you think about it, like trolls are like big giants. They've got antlers. They have horns. They have hooves. All that kind of stuff. So their body parts are trophies, and they can be sold for gold and silver.
Okay.
So, but he, because she's the one that killed him, she actually gives her one of the horns to wear on a leather band around her neck. So she does have that as a trophy.
Wait, how big are these horns?
I Well, big enough that she wore it around her neck. I don't know. I don't think it's the whole horn. I think it's like the tip of it,
Oh,
probably.
okay, that makes a little more sense. Then it's a cute little necklace. But if she's carrying around this 3 foot
Yeah,
horn
yeah,
hanging from her neck all the time, that's a little cumbersome and
yeah,
inconvenient.
yeah. Very true. Um, so they so what happens with them is that the reason they were fighting the troll in the first place was they were after um another tainted um person. And so I need to go back. I need to actually like define what tainted means, right? So tainted. So so as this story is taking place 297 years ago, the gods all fought each other. And we're not talking about like gods that are the size of you and me. We're talking about like giant gods, like giant snake fighting a giant dragon, fighting a giant bird, and their bones are like all over the landscape. Um,
So they're
and
titans.
they're titans, but they also have the ability to shapeshift into human form. And so these tainted actually have the blood of the gods in them. Like they've been descended from children of the gods, basically.
Okay, so wait, hold up. Okay, I might have lost track here or something. We have gigantic dragons and snakes and birds and stuff that can transform into normal people. And
Yes.
that's what these people are, is they're descendants of these, but they can also do the transforming.
No, they're descendants of these. They cannot transform, but they do
Okay.
have traits of them. Like so the person that they're hunting is actually descended from Berser, which is the bear god.
The bear god.
And so this guy, well, he can't he can't like turn into a bear or like a giant bear. He can like become like bigger, stronger, claws grow out, and like
Oh,
have the fury of the bear.
so kind of like a half breed.
Yes, kind of like a half breed.
Okay,
Exactly.
so but they're not, they're half breeds. They still have all these mystical magical powers. They can transform into things, not a full bear, but close. Um, but they're not considered gods.
They're not considered gods, they're considered tainted. And that's where
Tainted.
and that's where and that's where part of this story is going to lead is, you know, they're basically like hunted down, and there's magic that the Galdermen have created where they can create thrall collars that are able to control these people if they get the collar on them.
So are they hunted down by the gods, or are they hunted down by mankind? And if mankind is doing the hunting, where are the gods to step in and protect their offspring?
No, because 297 years ago there was the Guatafala, where which is Old Norse for Godfall. So
Uh,
that battle that they all had 297 years ago, all the gods were killed,
Oh,
or were they? So um, and we'll get there. so so anyway, so they were hunting down this guy, right? So they're able to defeat, basically, like this guy is trying to act like, well, no, you got the wrong guy, and and uh and they're actually able to like kind of prove that he actually is the right guy, right? So they capture him, but he's also got his wife and his child with him, and that's kind of like how they're able to get him to, like, well, if you don't want to go along with us, we'll kill your wife and kid. And so he's like, so he submits, lets them put the collar on him, and then they go to sell him to a jarl. But it's her, but guess who Elvar is?
One of the gods.
Elvar is the daughter of the Jarl.
Oh no.
But she's run away basically because he wanted her to become the wife of the prince. And she's like, no, I'm not going to, you're not going to sell me away. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. So instead of being like, instead of being sold away as the child bride, she has decided she's going to go off and earn her own battle fame and become her own person.
But
So
what kind
so it's
what
been 4 years now since her dad has seen her.
what kind of karma is that he's being, after trying to sell his daughter to a prince, he's actually being sold to his daughter?
That's great. That's great.
Hey, that's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
instant karma.
Well, his daughter's boss basically is selling the slave to the Jarl.
Yeah.
Is what it is. But I said, I had said like we have bones of these gods laying around, right? So
Right.
when Snaka, the snake god, fell, it fell on top of a mountain, shattering the mount, splitting down the front of the mountain, um, and creating a river there. And Snakavik, which is where Elvar's dad is the Jarl of, is actually the city built inside the skull of a snake. It's
So
just
do these god bones have any kind of magical, mystical anything about them, or are they just like
they do.
littered around the world? Like, okay, so they do.
They do. Like you can um like inside Snakavik, like it's all dark inside there. They have to like have even when the sun is shining as bright as it can, it's dark inside there. They have to like have torches and things in order to keep the city lit.
Well, it
Um,
technically is a skull, and there's really
yes.
only a couple of places where light could come in a
Yeah.
skull, so it makes sense that it would be dark in there.
Yeah. It just but I mean just think about the imagery, right? Think about the imagery of like the city built inside of a skull.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's amazing. And but yeah, I mean there are parts of the story where like there's people that will like wield like for instance like the talons of Orna the the bird god, and that gives them like super like higher level of strength and also like basically an unbreakable weapon, right?
Ah,
So
okay.
in that sense there's magic to the yeah, to the bones of the god. But in falling, so the front of it is Snakavik, the city inside the snake skull. Behind the mountain, and the reason and the mountain is now called the Boneback Mountains because then you're walking up basically like the tail of the snake god to get up to the top of that mountain. Okay,
Okay.
so um, what happens is that of the son of the okay, let me backtrack a little bit. So the guy that they kidnapped and then sold to the Jarl, right? Um, is also his wife was a Seorder witch as well. And so their son is also tainted, right? The son is tainted as well because he's
There's just 37 levels of stuff happening,
yeah. There are it's
and they're all
complex.
connected, and it's like,
They're all,
what
yep,
the hell? Like
yep,
every one of these three stories is oddly connected somehow,
yep,
or
exactly.
three
So
point of views.
right, so guess what happens to this tainted kid?
Does he get eaten by a troll?
No, he gets kidnapped like the other two kids from before.
Oh, well, I should have saw that coming.
Yeah, yeah. So he gets kidnapped, and um, so the mom is like, no, we says Agnar, we got to go after her. It's like, why would I do that? It's like, what is the profit in it for me to go after her to get your son back?
Exactly.
My job is to provide for my men and my women, and to earn battle fame. My job is not to go after your son. And she's like, well, but I know how to get to the place where the gods fell. I can't remember the name of the place right now, but he's like, nobody knows how to get there. She's like, no, I do. I
How
read it,
could you?
I read it in the witch book, and he's like, well, show me the book. She's like, no, that's what I was throwing into the fire when you guys caught us.
So, okay, wait, these are these huge gods. Their bones are everywhere, but there's a specific spot where they actually fell. Why aren't there bones where they actually fell?
Well, there are, but this is like where where nobody's been able to find like all the like other like bones that were left over. So basically the idea is this is where you're going to be able to get all the riches from. that
And
nobody else has been able to, and you'll get all the fame because nobody's been able to find these.
bones are big enough that they can build a village inside one of their skulls, right?
All right, I guess, yeah, I guess you have a fair point.
And okay, so these bones are gigantic, and there's a spot where there's a ton of them just kind of laying around. Nobody could have stumbled upon that before.
Well, it's also been hundreds of years, remember? So I mean,
Right, but
things sort of grown over them and all that kind of stuff.
possibly. But so the skull, nothing grew over that because it was on the top of a mountain.
Right.
But this other spot is like a field, so there's
Nope.
just really tall grass.
Nope. This other spot is actually at the top of this mountain, the top of this Brokeback
Okay, so where
Mountain.
the
And
gods
it's also
fell.
but it's also protected by a magical tree that kind of, I think, kind of hides it from people too.
Oh, so
This book actually gives like the location of the tree, so that this mythical tree where the gods kind of all had their battle and fell at.
okay, so
So does that make more sense?
okay, so now the whole reason nobody can see these ginormous god bones at the top of a mountain is because a tree is cloaking it.
A magical tree, yes.
A magical tree. Okay, okay, now it makes perfect sense.
Okay. All right. So they're going after that spot, right? To get the riches, and then they make a blood oath, basically. If you lead us here and and it's really the place and we get the stuff, then we'll go find your kid.
Okay.
Okay. And the kid was actually taken by another Viking war band led by Ilska the Cruel.
Okay.
So this is the third one, and they watched them sail away on the ships. They knew who took them, but they were like, we're not going to chase her down for you, So anyway, so they're going to the Brokeback Mountains to try to find this place. The band that Varg is with and he's learning from is going to try to track down warriors of the Queen that were killed. And it turns out they're also have to go through the Brokeback Mountains to do that. And then Orca is trying to track down her kid,
Did they
right?
run into Jake Gyllenhaal?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't get the reference. Sorry.
Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, did I say Brokeback Mountain?
Yeah.
I meant Boneback Mountain. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And Orca is actually traveling with the two kids of the guy that was killed in the arena in that battle, because they had gone back to try to kill the nephew, and then she went back and she went to go track down the thrall that had licked the blood of her husband off that blade, thinking, oh well, she must have told them, where, because how else would they have known that her family was tainted? Because they lived a quiet life, um, they had basically like lived in seclusion so that to avoid things like this happening. But it was
Okay, so
clear that her and her husband had a deep dark past.
okay, so now normally like the licking the blood, like we saw it in Mortal Kombat, and it was because she was trying to find out if she was one of the chosen ones, and you see other evil people do it in movies or things. What was the reason why this person did it?
Because her master had told her to find tainted children
Okay, and she could tell that they were tainted by licking the blood on
by
the
licking
knife.
the blood. Yeah, because she was also tainted.
Okay,
She
so
had the blood of Ulfr in her, the wolf
okay,
bastard.
so because they are tainted, they can taste the taint and other tainted taints.
Well, because she has the heightened wolf senses.
Okay, so it's the wolf senses. So she couldn't just sniff it and tell. She has to actually physically lick it.
Don't ruin this for me.
I'm just trying to understand.
Okay. So anyway, Orca goes back to confront this thrall, but because the thrall is owned by the Jarl,
Okay.
she also like has to basically she like breaks into the Jarl's bedroom, kills the Jarl's lover, slices the Jarl in the face, and then ends up killing the thrall. But she also finds out like where um, like who and where, and she's like, she's like, they're taking him to Darl. So then they're hunting down Darl, and she goes like on this journey with these two kids, also training these kids to fight, because if they're going to try to kill the nephew, they're going to have to know how to fight, right?
Right.
This nephew Gwydvar, I think is his name. And so they track it down. They're getting there, and they there's other things happen along the way, of course, but um, and there's even a scene where Orca like goes into a bar filled with like a dozen people in this war band that she's tracking down that has stolen her kid, and she tries to fight all 12 of them by herself.
Oh, well, you can't have an epic quest without little side missions here and there.
Right, and so she ends up getting rescued by the two kids because they've traded in their boat for some horses, and they rescue her from that battle. But anyway, they go up, and they're trying to get to the Grim home, which is where she finds that the leader of the war band that has taken her kid is at, right? And they're about to get there when they hear this squawking going on, or this like racket, and it turns out that a giant crow or a giant raven has been captured in the webbing of some ice spiders.
So I didn't mean to laugh there, but have you ever seen that stoned dog meme where the dog's kind of squinted and he looks like he's basically just stoned?
No.
Okay, you'll have to look it up because Rhaegar just looked over your shoulder and gave me that look. It's one of the best things I've seen today.
Gotcha. So anyway, there's this raven is stuck in the web of ice spiders, which are just these huge spiders that will sting you with like and like freeze your veins, and then they'll suck like the blood out of you basically once they've done that.
A lot of blood sucking for not enough vampires.
I suppose. So they rescue this giant raven, and it's like its mate comes to and helps too. They fight these spiders, but in doing so, they end up getting captured by the people by the guards of the Grimhole.
Okay.
And so they're getting tortured there, and the nephew comes in and he stabs through the heart one of the two kids. So the oldest of the kids that tried to come back and kill him is now dead. But also but then the ravens come, and they actually end up dropping in the two demons from their farm. They're like, these are the a favor for a favor, and these two guys have been looking for you. So they are able to free her and the kid, and so they're fighting, and so they end up fighting there, and she hears a kid yelling in the background, so she thinks her kid is there, and it turns out that Orca is also taken. Orca is has like the blood of Ulfar in her as well, so she actually is like a quote unquote werewolf type person.
Well, how did we get too tainted? It's like these are like offsprings of the gods, or
Yep. These are like ancestors of the gods, basically.
So this is like a fourth cousin or something like that.
Well, probably like a great granddaughter, something like that.
Oh, okay. So they live for billions of years too.
Well, no, I'm saying like it was 297 years ago the gods died. I'm just saying it's like passed down through the generations.
Oh, okay.
No, she's probably like 30. She's probably like 35 years old, something like that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now I'm getting it.
All right. So and then Varg in fighting on his side finds out that his entire warband are tainted, and that's actually why they ended up taking him, because he was tainted as well.
These gods have such a ancestral family tree, because there's just so many tainted all over the place.
Well, there's not as many as, like I said, they've been hunted down and enthralled for the most part.
Right.
So these people basically have to they have to keep their taintedness secret. I know this is going long. I know this is going long. This is an epic book.
I don't think I've heard the word tainted as many times in my entire life combined than I have in this last half hour.
Yeah, probably not. So and then also Varg, Varg finds out also in his journey, and this I probably should have said this earlier because it's gonna wrap up, but that Glornir became the leader of the Bloodsworn when his brother, the Skull Splitter, died. Okay. Um, so but they've always been tainted. And that's why they took Varg on, because they knew he was tainted. He just didn't know that he was. And eventually they've trained him to be a warrior. Now he's tainted and he's fighting in these battles, and he has and he is getting his own battlefield. And this guy who's always been a loner because he was a slave, he only ever had his sister to rely on, now has developed friends and relationships, and he has the opportunity to turn on them. And he chooses not to. He chooses to stick with them, even though the person that he was going to turn on them for could have cast that same spell that he wanted done to find out what happened to his sister. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now
So,
let's go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, so this sounds like a teeth-eating, blood-sucking, troll testicle fun time.
It is.
To sum it up.
And then Elvar, her band, gets up to the Boneback Mountains. I made sure I said that correctly that time. They find like the cairn of Ulfr and Berzer, and they find like some bones of Ornir.
Karen? Did you say Karen? Oh, I thought you said Karen. I was like,
No, Cairn,
someone
K-A-I
yelling at
or
a Walmart manager?
C-A-I-R. And they find the spirit of the tree, of the tree there, and but then like right behind them is Ilska and her warband coming, and they challenge Agnar to like one-on-one combat to see who gets that ground, basically. Agnar wins the battle, but of course they betray him still.
Of course.
And actually one of Agnar's warband turns out to have actually been like a double agent for Ilska's team. And this is also the one that has become the lover of Elvar, of course. And he runs over and like kills Agnar, and he's like, join us. And she's like, fuck no. and so they have a big battle. Well, it turns out that all the carts that Ilska's team had brought with him and was trailing behind them, guess what those carts had in it?
Bones,
Tainted
tainted children.
Hundreds of tainted children.
Hundreds of tainted children. These gods were busy.
And they do some blood magic with these children in order to actually draw out the one god that's still living. That was imprisoned under the earth, and that's the giant dragon god we see at the front of the book.
I mean, let's kind of break this down a little bit. Now, you said 297, so we'll round it up to 300 years since the gods fell.
Right.
And we just now said hundreds of children, which means there was hundreds of parents, which means there was hundreds of grandparents, because you got to figure you got a new generation coming every 30 years, say on average. So we're looking at what, 10 generations?
Yeah.
So how busy were these gods, and how long were they producing offspring to get hundreds of kids in only 10 generations?
Well, if you think about it, like even if they had, well, first of all, it was probably over like years and years and years and years, because these gods, yeah, even though they died 300 years ago, they were probably making children like way before that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is this making children thing must have gone on for a long time, but it confuses me why nobody, because you couldn't have that many tainted in just 10 generations, unless there were hundreds of gods to begin with. Sounds like I've only really heard reference to about 5 or 6 different ones.
Yeah, I can't remember how many their gods there were, but I think it was like 10 or 12, something like that.
Okay, so even 10 or 12 to get hundreds of tainted children, 10 generations later, they were busy. They were, and but if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were,
but if you also think about it though, like back in medieval times like that, like you would have like 10 kids each just to work your farm, right? So if you had, so if say like 10 gods had 10 kids each, and then they each had 10 kids, and then each had 10 kids. It gets spread exponentially down the road, right?
right, yeah, exactly. But if you're looking, I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up, and it is not to ruin the book, it's just it's something that I noticed is like these tainted are half breeds, basically. So
Or part breeds of some kind,
or
yeah.
part breeds, or down the line it got got diluted. But did it start with the gods? And if it did, why did the gods not make their children into gods who could then make the next generation into gods and so on?
Well, they haven't got that deep into the magic yet. My guess would be
Oh,
you can't make somebody a god, but I don't
oh,
know.
even though you're a god.
Right.
I suppose it's not like you are the god, you're just a god. So like Norse gods and things like that. Okay, now I'm starting to get it. Put
Okay.
two and two together.
Right. So anyway, that's how that basically ends up is that they free the last remaining god, which is the dragon god Locrifi. And like Rifi, something like that. Anyway, so that and then that's where we kind of find out that the gods can turn into human shape because she has this big battle. She kills these two like I don't know if they were angels, but like I'm assuming they were because there was like these two things that were in stuck in that cave with her that like were flying around with swords in their hands. So I'm guessing they had to be angels of some kind. So that was weird that we had never heard anything about that for the first 500 pages of the book. but but that happens. So she fights those two. There she gets helped by her children who were all dragonborn. Um, and Ilska's basically most of Ilska's warband were dragonborn. And that's why they were trying to free their god. Um, and so then she turns into human form. She talks to them. She flies back off like into the. She's like, I got to go back to my home, and she flies away. Um, and then we cut back to Varg, and Varg is marching with his warband, um, again led by Glornir, and they get to Grimhole. So they get to where Elvar was, or we last saw Orca, I mean, right? And Orca is sitting there on the steps, drenched in blood, surrounded by a dozen children.
Hmm.
And Glornir looks and he stops and he looks at Orca, and Orca looks up at him, and there's obvious recognition. And Orca looks at him and says, "He's not here." And Glornir's like, "My brother?" And Orca said, Orca says, "They killed him and took my son." And they embrace, and that's how the book ends. So it turns out that Orca's husband, Thorkel, was actually the original leader of the Bloodsworn. So he hadn't died until this book started.
Okay.
So now Orca is back with the Bloodsworn, and obviously next up they're gonna go fucking track down Breck. So
So is this the first book in a series?
first book in a planned trilogy, although John Gwynne has said that depending on how the book does and how what his publisher wants for a contract, that he could stay in this world for the rest of um, he
His
loves living in
career?
this world basically.
You
Yeah, I
just
mean, yeah, and I had said before that John Gwynne's Faithful in the Fallen is my favorite fantasy series of all time. Right, we
right.
had talked about that, and and I he had a sequel series set in that world, and I was like. I like looked at the caption. I'm like, I just watched these guys win. I can't see how they lost. So I
Right.
so I didn't want to get back into this. So this is like set in a completely different world. So if you've never read John Gwynne before, first of all, I'd recommend it. Secondly, you're not starting you're not starting like in the middle of another world he's already created. You're in a brand new world that he's just started for this
Yeah, I
trilogy.
mean, he sounds like a hell of a writer. I mean,
Yeah, he is.
he's got a lot of fun in there. It's like the way I'm judging these books that you review is I'm judging them like would I pay money to watch a movie of that? And that one, um, that book alone could probably be split into three separate movies.
Oh yeah, this would be an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it would
mean, I
be.
could see like a Lord of the Rings type trilogy coming out of that one book alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you just thinking about like the like a scene like panning out from Snokavik and that big snake skull, or
Hmm.
like watching these people trek up the Boneback Mountains,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely, and like even that one mission, that quest where there were all these little side missions, that could be a whole movie. Like they could look at each one of these narratives and make one full movie out of each one of those narratives, and then have the final battle scene, whatever, be a fourth movie just out of this one book alone. I could see them doing, hour and a half, 2 hour long movies.
Yeah. Quite possible. Yeah. I think this is the most cinematic. This might be the most cinematic book I've ever read, honestly.
Hmm.
Just because of all those set pieces, like you're
I,
talking
I
about.
I can just see, because of right to censor groups, we might have to eliminate the troll testicles. But then again, remember the Transformers had testicles in one of their movies.
They did. Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
So
Thanks for reminding me of that.
I guess if they could get away with it, troll testicles are fair game.
I forgot to mention to you that in that scene where at the end of the book where Orca is sitting there with the 12 children covered in blood,
Yeah.
there's also Vasily is sitting there like with a bowl full of what looks like nuts, but are actually the teeth of their tortoise that they had
So
just beaten.
yay! Walking into grandma's house with a bowl of teeth. I love it.
So yeah, I mean, I would probably give this book. I have to give it 10 out of 10 now. I finished that book and read that page. I was like, what? And then now I gotta wait a
So
year
okay,
to read the next one.
so was dude covered in blood, or were the 12 children covered in blood?
No, Orca was.
Okay, so the kids were fine.
Yeah, the kids were fine.
Okay.
She had rescued the kids that were still there, but Brecca was not there.
Except for the other 302 of them that are, because there were hundreds of kids and now there's 12.
Well, no, those other hundreds of kids were carted up to that spell. I mean, they're still alive.
Okay.
They were just part of that. I should have said that it was a blood magic, but they had just cut their hands. They hadn't they
Okay.
didn't actually kill any of them.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes more sense.
And the next book is at least the working title of it is Dead Gods Rising. So
Okay. So
yeah, so somehow these other gods are going to rise again as well.
no, out of all this that we heard, like I said, it sounds phenomenal. I would love to see a movie of it. But one thing that kind of confuses me is once you mentioned that there were hundreds of tainted children, and like we said, hundreds of parents and honey, with that many tainted people that did have special powers, if you think about it, because like you said, they couldn't turn into a big bear, but they could get teeth and strength and all this stuff. How are they so easily hunted down and killed? You would think that somebody
they're not. It's not easily. I mean, it takes an entire war band to take down one of them, basically.
to take down an entire war band. So must be a lot of war bands.
I don't know. We basically encountered 3 in the course of the book.
Right.
Four.
Because I could just see, I mean, with that many tainted children that all have these little special powers, they could unite and just take over the world.
Well, and that's I think what the conceit of this is that that Ilska's Dragonborn. She's been able to put together a band of mostly Dragonborn, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and they're and that's what they're like, we're gonna cheat it. And that's what they keep telling Orca when when Orca is she'll torture people of the band, like, where's my kid? He's going to change the world. Well, it turned out to be true because they brought back the gods, right? At least
Right.
one of them.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the conceit of it is, and that's also what the one that kills Agnar says. Because he theoretically he betrayed his war leader, right? But at the same
Right.
time, this is a war leader who had been tracking down others of his own kind and selling them for slavery. He had some of his own for slavery. So was he really, there's not really no good or evil here, right? It's
Right.
because you've also got these, yeah, he betrayed him, but at the same time, he would have been betraying his own kind and not,
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack in this book,
there is.
which is probably why this is the longest book review that we have and probably ever will have. But yeah,
it was so epic. I had to explain everybody's stories and how they all kind of come together at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like a great thing.
I loved it. I like I said, I have to give it 10 out of 10.
So guys, we're trying this new format, actually showing our faces, giving you some video to watch. Shane's going to edit it, throw in a little snappy comments, usually some funny faces drawn at me and all kinds of stuff. And then I'm going to, then we'll get them all uploaded on YouTube. If you like this video at any point, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, so you can see all the stuff that's coming up. And this is kind of our new format that we're going to be doing going forward, seeing how well this one works. Also, our Patreon, if you want to take a listen to some of the audio files that we have on there, our archives all the way back to 2014. Stuff that's on YouTube now is not up there, but if you want to listen to some old retro shows, and we do have some stuff that was exclusively done there, feel free to check that out. Pricing tiers have dropped. There's a lot more stuff to enjoy on there as well. Shane, you got a book for next week?
I'm actually in the process of reading a book called Noble Beginnings, and I'm also fairly close to being done with Jade City. So I mean Jade Wars. I guess we'll see which of those we're going to cover for next week.
Jade Wars. I'm putting my vote for Jade Wars. I need to know how, because like you said, I mean, that first half hour, whatever, or the first 50% of the book was horrid, but then it really picked up, and the way it ended, I definitely want to hear the next chapter, the next thing that happens there.
Yeah, so I've got about 7 hours left to listen to that audiobook for this. And so if I can get that done this week, that's what we'll cover. Otherwise, I'm already like 25% done with Noble Beginnings. I just started it yesterday. It's a really short one. So,
and we got 2 videos that'll be coming up after this one. This will be up I don't know, I guess whenever Shane gets it done, and tomorrow we're going to record a couple other videos. One of them is about what turned out to be another fantastic Netflix series. The story all wove together. I sent Shane a meme of a surprised looking cat at the end of the series, because I was caught off guard by the twist. But we'll talk about that in the next video, and then our video after that, we've got an interesting wrestling video we're going to discuss this time. It's not going to be so much about what's currently going on. Is going to be more about why we're both starting to bitter a little bit. I guess is the best way to look at it. And it's not a negative twist. It's not going to be like that. But the thing about wrestling is you get to a point where you're so overwhelmed with it that sometimes you just have to scale some of it back. And I think both Shane and I are kind of in that boat, but we want to explain to you guys why we're scaling a little bit back. And those videos will be coming up shortly as well. Like I said, this one will be up first, and then those other 2 coming soon.
Yep. So until tomorrow morning, that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
finish that damn book.